Numbers 3. This chapter and the next are concerning the tribe of Levi, which was to be mustered and marshaled by itself, and not in common with the other tribes, intimating the particular honor put upon them and the particular duty and service required from them. The Levites are in this chapter considered 1. As attendants on and assistants to the priests in the temple service, and so we have an account 1. Of the priests themselves, verse 1 through 4, and their work, verse 10. 2. Of the gift of the Levites to them, verse 5 through 9, in order to which they are mustered, verse 14 through 16, and the sum of them taken, verse 39. Each particular family of them is mustered, has its place assigned and its charge, the Gershonites, verse 17 through 26, the Kohathites, verse 27 through 32, the Merarites, verse 33 through 39. 2. As equivalents for the firstborn, verse 11 through 13. 1. The firstborn are numbered and the Levites taken instead of them as far as the number of the Levites went, verse 40 through 45. 2. What firstborn there were more than the Levites were redeemed, verse 46, and so on.
The separation of the Levites, 1490 BC, verses 1 to 14. This is the process by which Aaron and Moses were led in God's guidance in the day that the Lord spoke with Moses in Mount Sinai. These are the names of Aaron's sons, Nadab the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the priests which were anointed, whom he consecrated to minister in the priest's office. Nadab and Abihu died before the Lord when they offered strange fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai, and they had no children. And Eleazar and Ithamar ministered in the priest's office in the sight of Aaron their father. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Bring the tribe of Levi near, and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may minister unto him. And they shall keep his charge, and the charge of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of the congregation, to do the service of the tabernacle. And they shall keep all the instruments of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the charge of the children of Israel to do the service of the tabernacle. And thou shalt give the Levites unto Aaron and unto his sons. They are wholly given unto him out of the children of Israel. And thou shalt appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priest's office, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, And I, behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of all the firstborn that openeth the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. For on the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. Mine shall they be. I am the Lord. Here, i.e., the family of Aaron is confirmed in the priest's office, verse 10.
They had been called to it before and consecrated. Here they are appointed to wait on their priest's office. The apostle uses this phrase, let us wait on our ministry. The office of the ministry requires a constant attendance and great diligence. So frequent are the returns of its work, and yet so transient its favorable opportunities, that it must be waited on. Here is repeated what was said before, the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death, which forbids the invading of the priest's office by any other person whatsoever. None must come nigh to minister but Aaron and his sons only. All others are strangers. It also lays a charge on the priests, as doorkeepers in God's house, to take care that none should come near who were forbidden by the law. They must keep off all intruders, whose approach would be to the profanation of the holy things, telling them that if they came near, it was at their peril. They would die by the hand of God, as Uzzah did. The Jews say that afterwards there was hung over the door of the temple a golden sword, perhaps alluding to that flaming sword at the entrance of the Garden of Eden, on which was engraven, "The stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death." 2. A particular account is given of this family of Aaron. What we have met with before concerning them is here repeated. 1. The consecration of the sons of Aaron, verse 3. They were all anointed to minister before the Lord, though it appeared afterwards, and God knew it, that 2 of them were wise and 2 were foolish. 2. The fall of the 2 elder, verse 4. They offered strange fire and died for so doing before the Lord. This is mentioned here in the preamble to the law concerning the priesthood, for a warning to all succeeding priests. Let them know by this example that God is a jealous God and will not be mocked. The holy anointing oil was an honor to the obedient, but not a shelter to the disobedient. It is here said they had no children, providence so ordering it for their greater punishment, that none of their descendants should remain to be priests, and so bear up their name who had profaned God's name. 3. The continuance of the 2 younger, Eleazar and Ithamar, ministered in the sight of Aaron. It intimates, 1. The care they took about their ministration, not to make any blunders. They kept under their father's eye and took instruction from him in all they did, because probably Nadab and Abihu got out of their father's sight when they offered strange fire. Note, it is good for young people to act under the direction and inspection of those that are aged and experienced. 2. The comfort Aaron took in it. It pleased him to see his younger sons behave themselves prudently and gravely when his 2 elder had miscarried. Note, it is a great satisfaction to parents to see their children walk in the truth.
3. A grant is made of the Levites to be assistants to the priests in their work. Give the Levites to Aaron, verse 9. Aaron was to have a greater propriety in and power over the tribe of Levi than any of the other priests had in and over their respective tribes. There was a great deal of work belonging to the priest's office, and there were now only 3 pairs of hands to do it all, Aaron's and his 2 sons. For it does not appear that they had either of them any children at this time, at least not any that were of age to minister. Therefore God appoints the Levites to attend upon them. Note, those whom God finds work for, his will find help for. Here is 1. The service for which the Levites were designed. They were to minister to the priests in their ministration to the Lord, verse 6, and to keep Aaron's charge, verse 7, as the deacons to the bishops in the evangelical constitution, serving at tables while the bishops waited on their ministry. The Levites killed the sacrifices, and then the priests needed only to sprinkle the blood and burn the fat. The Levites prepared the incense, the priests burnt it. They were to keep not only Aaron's charge, but the charge of the whole congregation. Note, it is a great trust that is reposed in ministers, not only for the glory of Christ, but for the good of his church, so that they must not only keep the charge of the great high priest, but must also be faithful to the souls of men, in trust for whom a dispensation is committed to them. 2. The consideration upon which the Levites were demanded. They were taken instead of the firstborn. The preservation of the firstborn of Israel, when all the firstborn of the Egyptians, with whom they were many of them mingled, were destroyed, was looked upon by him who never makes any unreasonable demands, as cause sufficient of the appropriating of all the firstborn thenceforward to himself. Verse 13. All the firstborn are mine. That was sufficient to make them his, though he had given no reason for it. For he is the sole fountain and Lord of all beings and powers. But because all obedience must flow from love, and acts of duty must be acts of gratitude before they were challenged into peculiar services, they were crowned with peculiar favors. Note, when he that made us saves us, we are thereby laid under further obligations to serve him and live to him. God's right to us by redemption corroborates the right he has to us by creation. Now, because the firstborn of a family are generally the favorites, and some would think it a disparagement to have their eldest sons servants to the priests and attending before the door of the tabernacle, God took the tribe of Levi entire for his own, in lieu of the firstborn. Verse 12. Note, God's institutions put no hardships upon men in any of their just interests or reasonable affections. It was presumed that the Israelites would rather part with the Levites than with the firstborn,
and therefore God graciously ordered the exchange. Yet for us he spared not his own Son.
14. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, Number the children of Levi after the house of their fathers, by their families. Every male from a month old and upward shalt thou number them. And Moses numbered them according to the word of the Lord, as he was commanded. And these were the sons of Levi by their names, Gershon, and Kohath, and Merari. And these are the names of the sons of Gershon by their families, Libni and Shimei. And the sons of Kohath by their families, Amram and Izhar, Hebron and Uzziel. And the sons of Merari by their families, Mali and Mushi. These are the families of the Levites according to the house of their fathers. Of Gershon was the family of the Libnites and the family of the Shemites. These are the families of the Gershonites. Those that were numbered of them, according to the number of all the males from a month old and upward, were 7,500. The families of the Gershonites shall pitch behind the tabernacle westward, and the chief of the house of the father of the Gershonites shall be Eliasaph the son of Lael. And the charge of the sons of Gershon in the tabernacle of the congregation shall be the tabernacle and the tent, the covering thereof, and the hanging for the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the hangings of the court, and the curtain for the door of the court, which is by the tabernacle, and by the altar round about, and the cords of it for all the service thereof. And of Kohath was the family of the Amramites, and the family of the Israelites, and the family of the Hebronites, and the family of the Uzzielites. These are the families of the Kohathites. In the number of all the males, from a month old and upward, were 8,600, keeping the charge of the sanctuary. The families of the sons of Kohath shall pitch on the side of the tabernacle southward. And the chief of the house of the father of the families of the Kohathites shall be Eliasaph the son of Uzziel. And their charge shall be the ark, and the table, and the candlestick, and the altars, and the vessels of the sanctuary, wherewith they minister, and the hanging, and all the service thereof. And Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest shall be chief over the chief of the Levites, and have the oversight of them that keep the charge of the sanctuary. Of Merari was the family of the Malites, and the family of the Mushites. These are the families of Merari. And those that were numbered of them, according to the number of all the males from a month old and upward, were 6,200. And the chief of the house of the father of the families of Merari was Zuriel the son of Abihail. These shall pitch on the side of the tabernacle northward. And under the custody and charge of the sons of Merari shall be the boards of the tabernacle, and the bars thereof, and the pillars thereof, and the sockets thereof, and all the vessels thereof, and all that serveth thereto, and the pillars of the court round about, and their sockets, and their pins, and their cords. But those that encamp before the tabernacle toward the east, even before the tabernacle of the congregation eastward, shall be Moses and Aaron and his sons, keeping the charge of the sanctuary for the charge of the children of Israel. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. All that were numbered of the Levites, which Moses and Aaron numbered at the commandment of the Lord, throughout their families, all the males from a month old and upward, were 22,000.
The Levites being granted to Aaron to minister to him, they are here delivered to him by tale, that he might know what he had, and employ them accordingly. Observe, by what rule they were numbered. Every male from a month old and upward, verse 15. The rest of the tribes were numbered only from 20 years old and upwards, and of them those only that were able to go forth to war. But into the number of the Levites they must take in both infants and infirm. Being exempted from the war, it was not insisted upon that they should be of age and strength for the wars. Though it appears afterwards that little more than a third part of the Levites were fit to be employed in the service of the tabernacle, about 8,000 that of 22,000, chapter 4, verses 47 and 48, yet God would have them all numbered as retainers to his family, that none may think themselves disowned and rejected of God, because they are not in a capacity of doing him that service which they see others do him. The Levites of a month old could not honor God and serve the tabernacle as those that had grown up. Yet out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, the Levites' praise was perfected. Let not little children be hindered from being enrolled among the disciples of Christ, for such was the tribe of Levi,
Of such is the kingdom of heaven, that kingdom of priests. The redemption of the firstborn was reckoned from a month old, chapter 18, verse 15 and 16. Therefore, from that age, the Levites were numbered. They were numbered after the house of their fathers, not their mothers, for if the daughter of a Levite married one of another tribe, her son was not a Levite. But we read of a spiritual priest to out God, who inherited the unfeigned faith which dwelt in his mother and grandmother, 2 Timothy 1:5. How they were distributed into 3 classes, according to the number of the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, and these subdivided into several families, verse 17 through 20.
Concerning each of these 3 classes we have an account. 1. Of their number. The Gershonites were 7,500. The Kohathites were 8,600. The Merarites were 6,200. The rest of the tribes had not their subordinate families numbered by themselves as those of Levi. This honor God put upon his own tribe. 2. Of their post about the tabernacle on which they were to attend. The Gershonites pitched behind the tabernacle, westward, verse 23. The Kohathites on the right hand, southward, verse 29. The Merarites on the left hand, northward, verse 35. And to complete the square, Moses and Aaron with the priests encamped in the front, eastward, verse 38. Thus was the tabernacle surrounded with its guards, and thus does the angel of the Lord encamp round about those that fear him, those living temples. Psalms 34:7. Everyone knew his place, and must therein abide with God. 3. Of their chief or head. As each class had its own place, so each had its own prince. The commander of the Gershonites was Eliasaph, verse 24. Of the Kohathites, Elizaphan, verse 30. Of whom we read, Leviticus 10:4, that he was one of the bearers at the funeral of Nadab and Abihu. Of the Merarites, Zuriel, verse 35. 4. Of their charge, when the camp moved. Each class knew their own business. It was requisite they should, for that which is everybody's work often proves nobody's work. The Gershonites were charged with the custody and carriage of all the curtains and hangings and coverings of the tabernacle and court, verses 25 and 26. The Kohathites of all the furniture of the tabernacle, the ark, altar, table, etc., verses 31 and 32. The Merarites of the heady carriage, boards, bars, pillars, etc., verses 36 and 37.
2. Here we may observe, 1. That the Kohathites, though they were the second house, yet were preferred before the elder family of the Gershonites. Besides that, Aaron and the priests were of that family, they were more numerous, and their post and charge more honorable, which probably was ordered to put an honor upon Moses, who was of that family. Yet, 2, the posterity of Moses were not at all dignified or privileged, but stood upon the level with other Levites, that it might appear he did not seek the advancement of his own family, nor to entail any honors upon it either in church or state. He that had honor enough himself coveted not to have his name shine by that borrowed light, but rather to have the Levites borrow honor from his name. Let none think contemptibly of the Levites, though inferior to the priests. For Moses himself, though it preferment enough for his sons to be Levites. Probably it was because the family of Moses were Levites only, that in the title of this chapter, which is concerning that tribe, verse 1, Aaron is put before Moses. 3. The sum total of the numbers of this tribe. They are computed in all 22,000, verse 39. The sum of the particular families amounts to 300 more. If this had been added to the sum total, the Levites, instead of being 273 fewer than the firstborn, as they were, verse 43, would have been 27 more, and so the balance would have fallen the other way. But it is supposed that the 300 which were struck off from the account when the exchange was to be made were the firstborn of the Levites themselves, born since their coming out of Egypt, which could not be put into the exchange because they were already sanctified to God. But that which is especially observable here is that the tribe of Levi was by much the least of all the tribes. Note, God's part in the world is too often the smallest part. His chosen are comparatively a little flock.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Number all the firstborn of the males of the children of Israel from a month old and upward, and take the number of their names. And thou shalt take the Levites for me, I am the Lord, instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites instead of all the firstlings among the cattle of the children of Israel.
And Moses numbered, as the Lord commanded him, all the firstborn among the children of Israel. And all the firstborn males by the number of names from a month old and upward, of those that were numbered of them, were 20,263. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take the Levites instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites instead of their cattle, and the Levites shall be mine. I am the Lord. And for those that are to be redeemed of the 213 of the firstborn of the children of Israel, which are more than the Levites, thou shalt even take 5 shekels apiece by the poll. After the shekel of the sanctuary shalt thou take them. The shekel is 20 gerahs. And thou shalt give the money wherewith the odd number of them is to be redeemed unto Aaron and to his sons. And Moses took the redemption money of them that were over and above them, that were redeemed by the Levites. Of the firstborn of the children of Israel took he the money, 1,365 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary. And Moses gave the money of them that were redeemed unto Aaron and to his sons, according to the word of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. Here is the exchange made of the Levites for the firstborn. 1. The firstborn were numbered from a month old. Verse 42-43.
Those certainly were not reckoned who, though firstborn, had become heads of families themselves, but those only that were under age. And the learned Bishop Patrick is decidedly of opinion that none were numbered but those only that were born since their coming out of Egypt, when the firstborn were sanctified. Exodus 13:2. If there were 22,000 firstborn males, we may suppose as many females, and all these brought forth in the first year after they came out of Egypt. We most hence infer that in the last year of their servitude, even when it was in the greatest extremity, there were abundance of marriages made among the Israelites. They were not discouraged by the present distress, but married in faith, expecting that God would shortly visit them with mercy, and that their children, though born in bondage, should live in liberty and honor. And it was a token of good to them, an evidence that they were blessed of the Lord, that they were not only kept alive, but greatly increased in a barren wilderness. 2. The number of the firstborn and that of the Levites, by a special providence, came pretty near to each other. Thus, when he divided the nations, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. Deuteronomy 32:8. Known unto God are all his works beforehand, and there is an exact proportion between them, and so it will appear when they come to be compared. The Levites' cattle are said to be taken instead of the firstlings of the cattle of the children of Israel. That is, the Levites, with all their possessions, were devoted to God instead of the firstborn in all theirs. For when we give ourselves to God, all we have passes as appurtenances with the premises. 3. The small number of firstborn which exceeded the number of the Levites, 273 in all, were to be redeemed, at 5 shekels apiece, and the redemption money given to Aaron, for it would not do well to have them added to the Levites. It is probable that in the exchange they began with the eldest of the firstborn, and so downward, so that those were to be redeemed with money, who were the 273 youngest of the firstborn. More likely so than either that it was determined by lot or that the money was paid out of the public stock. The church is called the church of the firstborn, which is redeemed, not as these were with silver and gold, but being devoted by sin to the justice of God, is ransomed with the precious blood of the Son of God.